Almost 2 years ago, I gave birth to my son, and at that point decided to become a stay-at-home mom. Now, this is a huge financial decision, so today I'm sitting down to share with you how we were able to make that work with our finances. Hey guys, I'm Marissa and welcome back to my channel. Here on my channel, we talk about life and money and how you can enjoy life while still accomplishing your financial goals through the use of a budget. So if that sounds like something interesting to you, scroll down and hit that subscribe button so you won't miss any new videos. Now, being a stay-at-home mom for me was definitely something that I wanted to do. That was a priority of my life before having kids and was this thing that I wanted to be able to enjoy in my life. And so therefore, we've used our finances to be able to turn that dream into a reality. So before we even started having kids, I always had this dream to be a stay-at-home mom someday. I was working full-time in accounting and enjoyed my job, but just always had this dream of being able to be with my kids. And the biggest desire that I had was just for that flexibility. I didn't want to have to report to an employer. I wanted to be able to have the flexibility to take my kids to the zoo in the middle of the day if I wanted to, and to be able to spend all of that really great quality time with them, especially during those younger years. And so this was just always a dream that I had, and I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And I've now been in that role for almost 2 years, and we'll talk about more of what that role looks like for me and how we were able to make that happen. So the first thing that we did is we were planning ahead. Like I shared, I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom for years, and so we knew that this was a priority in our lives and knew that this was a plan that we hope to have for our future. It is definitely possible to be able to enjoy your life while still working on your financial goals, and those two go hand in hand so much, which is what I talk about here on my channel. And so the desire for our life, for me to be a stay-at-home mom, had a huge impact on our finances, and we were able to use our finances to make this life priority a reality. And so with that, we were planning ahead. We were looking at what our budget would look like if I was a stay-at-home mom and things that we could do years earlier to be able to make this more of a possibility. The next thing that we did is we started budgeting. Obviously, I love to talk about budgeting here on my channel, so you can find tons of budgeting videos here, but budgeting has been so important for us. My husband, Jacob, and I got married when we were right out of college. We started our first real jobs, and we had a ton of student loan debt. We had $80,000 of student loans. And at that time, we then started budgeting because we wanted to see where we were spending our money. We wanted to track how much money was going to our student loans. And we established this habit of budgeting, and it's now something that we do almost 7 years later. We budget every single month. A budget is not restrictive. It's simply a plan for your finances. And it's been so helpful for us to be able to track both the fun things we can do with money and the important long-term things we do with money as well. I actually have a course called the Budget Breakdown course, which walks you through everything you need to know about budgeting. If you have not even started budgeting or are confused or overwhelmed by it, this course is for you. So I'll leave a link to that in the description box down below, and you can check it out there. With budgeting, we simply assign every dollar a name at the beginning of the month, and it helps us stay on track and be intentional about the way that we spend our money. The third thing we did is we paid off debt. Like I said, we got married with over $80,000 of student loan debt. We actually ended up paying off $87,000 because of interest in about 2.5 years. When we got married, we knew that we wanted to have this desire for our family. We knew that we wanted to have kids. I'd love to be a stay-at-home mom someday. And we also wanted to be able to own a home. But we knew that we couldn't do all of these things if we had all of the student loan payments that we had at that time. So we wanted to pay off our debt as soon as possible. So we made a lot of sacrifices during that time, but it totally paid off because we became debt-free and we no longer have this burden of student loans, and we no longer have this payment taking up that monthly cash flow out of our budget because we don't have that debt anymore. So I'm so glad that we were debt-free before I became a stay-at-home mom, because it's enabled us to have more options because we don't need this extra income to cover all of these minimum debt payments each month. The fourth thing we did is we boosted our savings. Now, I think that having an emergency fund is very important no matter what stage you are in your life, but especially when you think of having kids and being a stay-at-home mom, it becomes even more important. A great rule of thumb is maybe around 3 to 6 months of expenses in an emergency fund, and we've definitely had this grow as time has gone on, depending on what situation we are in. But if you have multiple children, multiple people to feed and take care of, and then your income is reduced to only one income stream, that could be a bit more risky. And so you may want to have a larger emergency fund in place to cover those sorts of things. So we saved for our emergency fund a couple years before we started a family, and we have been adding a little bit more to it ever since. And it gives me so much peace of mind of being a full family of 3, almost 4. I am pregnant with our second boy due in June. And I just love having that emergency fund there if we ever were to need it. We also save money into sinking funds, which is a way for us to save money for certain expenses that we know are coming up in the future and plan ahead in that way. So we make savings a great priority in our budget right now, and that way we're able to cover any sort of additional expenses that may come up in the future. The 5th thing we did is we found ways to cut costs. Now this has definitely varied depending on where we were at in our lives and our financial journey. But when my husband and I were newlyweds and we were working on paying off all that debt, we made a lot of cuts. Or I guess I should say we still lived like we were broke college students, even though we then had jobs and were making money so that we could put every extra dollar to our debt. But we definitely sacrificed some things then. And now that we are in a better place in our finances, we have still been able to find ways to save. I don't consider myself to be a cheap or frugal person, but I love to be able to save money when it's super easy to do so. So we've cut back on things that aren't as important to us. We don't have cable. Instead, we have a couple streaming platforms that we use. And we've just found other ways to be able to save money. Like we use energy efficient bulbs in our house for everything. And that really reduces our electric costs. We also don't eat out a ton. And while we do go on vacations, we've been able to find ways to save on them. And we go on maybe like one big vacation a year. And so we found ways that we can cut back on things that maybe aren't as important to us so that we can focus on that priority. And when I was becoming a stay-at-home mom, that priority was for me to be a stay-at-home mom. Cutting back on costs also helped us to be able to accomplish those other financial goals faster, like paying off debt and saving for an emergency fund, while also then having us know what it feels like to be able to live off of less money each month. And so we could see how this budget could work if we had less income. Like we could make it work in our finances for me to be a stay-at-home mom. And the 6th thing we did, and honestly the biggest and most important thing for us, was to make more money. So before I went on maternity leave, when I had my son Peter in May of 2020, I was working doing accounting full time. And when I went on maternity leave, I wasn't sure exactly what it would look like after maternity leave. I really wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, but I wasn't sure if it would fully work out that way with all of the financial aspects. But I at least wanted to be part-time, but definitely not full-time. So my husband Jacob was still working his same job, and then once my maternity leave was over, I actually decided to go down to 10 hours a week working for my employer, which was very minimal, but it was something, gave us some sort of additional income. I also then started my business, which I actually started a couple years earlier, but that has definitely grown more over the years. And during that time when I had my son, I realized that between the money that I was making from my job, working just a few hours, working just those like 10 hours a week, plus the money that I was making for my business, like we were basically covered to be making what I was making before I went on maternity leave. And so those first few months after I went on maternity leave, I was trying to balance it all of working for an employer a little bit, working for myself, and being a stay-at-home mom. And then my husband worked his job. But when my son was about 8 months old, my husband Jacob actually changed employers, and that was a really great change to our household income as well, and really helpful. I ended up then quitting with my employer to do my own thing full-time and be a full-time stay-at-home mom once that change occurred, because we had more of that flexibility in our budget. Now, if you follow me and you watch my videos regularly, then you may know that I'm not the most traditional stay-at-home mom, and I want to talk about that really fast in this section. Another way that we were able to make more money was for me to change my mindset on what being a stay-at-home mom truly is. I think that we may think of a stay-at-home mom like a 1950s stay-at-home mom where her role is just fully 100% at home. But the truth is that being a stay-at-home mom in 2022 may look a bit different from the 1950s or 60s. Things are definitely more expensive now than what they were before, and it's crazy to think that a family of, 5 or 6 could be fully supported off of one man's median salaried income. And while we could survive off of my husband's income, for me to be able to make a little extra money, that meant that we could do more fun things as a family, we could work on additional financial goals as a family, and then became something that was important for us to have in our household. The great thing about being a stay-at-home mom in 2022 is that there are so many options to be able to make money from home. And you can do this really in your spare time, which is what I've done as a stay-at-home mom. I know that people love to put labels on things, and a lot of people will say I'm not a stay-at-home mom because I do work and I make money for my household. But if you want to put a title on it, maybe I'm a stay-at-home working mom. And so for the first 18 months of my son's life, I was working on my business while he was asleep, whether it was nap or after bedtime. And so I felt like I really got the best of both worlds. I had that flexibility to be home with my son. I got to be with him for every waking hour and absolutely love that time together and had that flexibility that I always desired in being a stay-at-home mom. But I was still able to have this extra outlet and be able to do something that I enjoy. I love doing YouTube, and it's awesome that I can make money from that. So I work very much part-time, but I've built my business over the years, and it's now provided what many would say is a full-time income, which I'm really grateful for. So for me, I feel like I'm living that stay-at-home mom dream that I had of that desired flexibility, and that just may look different in 2022 as a stay-at-home mom versus decades earlier, and that's okay. My son now actually does go to school a couple days a week for a little bit, and it's been so good for him and his social interaction. We wanted to be able to do this for him and his benefit, and so that's freed up more time for me as well. Like here I am filming a video while he is at school, but for those first 18 months, I was fully with him all the time and was able to find that balance. But again, I feel like this is just another thing that fits with the desires and the goals that we've had for our family. And I'm so glad that we are able to send our son to school a couple days a week, so for his own enjoyment and fun. I feel like he's been learning so much and he's grown so much in these last couple months of going just a couple days. He absolutely loves it. But again, I feel like it's just been the best of all worlds. Now I am due soon with baby number 2, and my plan is that I will be fully with him for the first 18 months and then maybe do something similar when he turns 18 months old, of getting him into school or something like that, to have a little bit more social interaction. But I am excited to continue on this role of being a stay-at-home mom and working when my kids are asleep. So that is how I was able to go from having this dream of being a stay-at-home mom to making it a reality. And just know that it definitely is possible to be a stay-at-home mom. You just may have to get creative about it, and your mindset of what a stay-at-home mom is may just have to shift a little bit. What is the ultimate desire that you have in being a stay-at-home mom? Like why do you want to be a stay-at-home mom? And be able to fulfill those purposes while maybe making a few adjustments that make sense for you in your life. Like for us, that meant for me to still keep working during naps and nighttime, and it's still something that I enjoy. So let me know in the comments below if you are wanting to be a stay-at-home mom or you are a stay-at-home mom and what that looks like for you. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more videos on motherhood and personal finance topics. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.
About to leave.